African American is a term used to define people in the United States who are the descendants of African slaves. They're called African Americans because due to slavery, they lost any distinct contact with their ancestry other than the vagueness of the African continent. Something similar can be seen to a much lesser extent with white people in the United States, who are sometimes called European Americans when a similar thing, that is, losing contact with the specificity of their ancestry, occurs to them. European American is, in my experience at least, never or very rarely used. It is always either like German American or Irish American or white or just even American. I mean, look at any form of news media and tell me how many times you see or hear European American versus African American. Even on Google, African American has 1 billion more search results than European American. Additionally, some censuses in the 1990s even found that the term European American was only preferable to 2% of the white people taking the survey, with white and Caucasian making up the vast majority of it. European American very simply isn't the term used for white people in the United States. They're always either just white, Caucasian, or American. But American makes the most sense, at least in my opinion. I mean, it is the official demonym of the United States, but despite this, although there are a lot of people in the United States who aren't of European descent, it is almost always exclusively used to refer to people who are of European descent. Everyone else is usually referred to something different. For instance, there are Asian Americans or Mexican Americans, but for the purpose of this video, because I'm not Asian American or Mexican American, I will not be talking about them at all. I will instead be referring mainly to African American and what that means. But anyways, why is that? Why is there this otherness in terms of non-white people in the United States? German Americans, Irish Americans, Italian Americans, and Polish Americans. The 4 biggest ethnic groups of white people in the United States. These people were incredibly discriminated against when they first arrived in the United States. However, they had one thing different that separated them from the other people who immigrated and came to the United States. They had Europeanness. So it just occurred to me while I'm editing this video that Europeanness literally just sounds like I'm saying Europeanness. I literally don't know why I just didn't say whiteness or something like that. But yeah, just let it slide for now. Europeanness was what contrasted them to the non-Europeans of the Africans, Asians, natives, and other people. Over time, with this Europeanness, they were able to assimilate into what is now simply considered American. So-called African Americans cannot do this, as what is and has always been considered American will always be a white person, and any other type of person will forever be othered within the context of American identity. And mind you, this is not some accident or flaw of American culture, but rather it's the absolute bedrock of it. The creators of the United States, all white men, half of which that owned black slaves, created the United States for the sole purpose of appealing to their fellow white men. And this is a very well-known fact. Due to this, though, the inherent core of what makes a person American will always come down to how similar you are to the original ideals of what an American person is and should be. And unfortunately, for African Americans, whose ancestors are not even considered human, let alone American, this simply will never be. Black people in the United States, simply just due to how the culture is and was created, will always be othered. And I mean, this can be seen in every facet of society, from music, art, politics, economics, law, housing, jobs, dating, movies, sports, and, well, for the purpose of this video, language. It is a simple truth of the United States of America, and this social feature will unfortunately exist for as long as the United States continues to exist. The term African American is simply a very hypocritical lie. As I've just explained, our identity comes from the fact that the United States will constantly and consistently at that regard us as an other, rendering the American part of our label completely just false. Additionally, slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, black codes, capitalism, police brutality, and the prison system are all branches of the United States and have always been a direct way for them to attack black people in this country, specifically for their race. The United States is clearly either actively against black people at worst or doesn't regard their lives as having value at best. And if a system is actively against you in such a way, it very simply is not your system. In regards to the African part of the term, it is also just a lie, honestly. Personally, at least, I've never met a single African American who has been to Africa, has close family from Africa, follows any African religions, or speaks any African language. Though, don't get me wrong, we do definitely have a lot of things that we brought with us from Africa, but in my opinion, I don't think it's enough to fully proclaim ourselves an African, at least in the same sense that a Nigerian or Ethiopian would. It's honestly just really confusing, and as immigration from Africa to the United States increases in coming decades, it'll likely just end up causing even more confusion. Finally, the two parts of the term are incredibly contradictory. If you are an African, you will never fully be considered American, and if you are American, you will never be fully considered as African. Although you may obviously be accepted and treated incredibly kindly by the local people in various contexts, and don't get me wrong, I really do wish we lived in a society where it's possible, I just feel that absolute acceptance into another culture like that is entirely impossible, at least with our current belief and understanding of what race and culture are. However, for that exact reason, I kinda like the term and I think it strangely works really well. African American has always been a term that is incredibly intriguing to me, as I feel that it is very accurate to us as a people, but I still obviously dislike it a lot. Despite my personal gripes with it though, and the history behind it, it's still unfortunately true. I mean, black people in the United States are and have always been considered other in the country, and we have a definite disconnect from Africa, and that has formed our entire identity as a people. I feel that African American is very similar to that one Childish Gambino quote of too black for the white kids, but too white for the black kids, but applied on a global cultural scale. As I said earlier, most of us know very little about legitimate African culture, let alone from where our ancestors originally came from. Additionally, it is becoming increasingly clear that true acceptance of the United States for us is a very far ways away, and the white capitalist power structure will seemingly do everything in its power to prevent that from happening. Despite these unfortunate truths though, I do believe that we as a people should definitely seek to actively change what we're called. Ideally something that isn't a lie, nor something that just tries to promote weird pro-American right-wing rhetoric or whatever. And this isn't necessarily a specific call to action or anything, but I honestly just want to talk about this topic as it's been on my mind for a while, and also just see if anyone has any other thoughts. So if so, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I may also make a follow-up video to this, maybe, I don't know, depending if I have anything more to say in the coming weeks or so, but I don't know. Anyways, thank you very much for listening to me, and have a good day.